Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be my first ever story time. So you may notice that my hair is a completely different color to what it has been for the entirety of the time I've been doing my channel. So the story time is relating to why I am now a brunette instead of a blonde. So basically I went to go and get my hair done for the first time ever. I've never dyed my hair at all, apart from like a couple of inches at the bottom once I dip dyed it. But apart from that, I've never colored like my whole head. So basically I went on Instagram and I was looking for some inspiration because I was wanting to do something cool with my hair. So I found a couple of looks that were like this steel blue color and I really wanted to do it. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do because it's like colored hair, which I love because I used to have electric blue and pink and purple dip dye. So I love like cool colors, not just like browns and blondes and things. I love exploring with color with my hair. So I was like, I'm going to do this because it's still subtle enough that I can wear it to work, but it's cool and it's like edgy and it's kind of a trend at the moment, the whole grey hair thing. So I was like, I don't want to go granny hair, I want to go like edgy steel blue grey hair, if that makes sense. So I'll show you the image that I found on Instagram. It's by an account called Hair by Louise Skelton. And I think that she's in Brisbane and she's amazing. Like her looks are so amazing, they're on point. So this was my inspo photo that I showed the hairdresser. So hopefully you guys can see what that looks like. So I didn't want to insert it in my video because it's not my image, but I just wanted to show you guys for context what it was. So it's like a steel blue grey color, right? So I go in there, I'm like, hey, like I'm just getting a few quotes for my hair to be done. I want it dyed this cool steel blue grey color. Can you do it? And the lady was like, yeah, that's easy on your hair, like you're pretty blonde, so it'll be easy to get it light enough to make it grey, blah blah blah. And I was like, no worries, like how much? And she gave me a quote of like maximum $330. So I was like, okay, that's like more than I wanted to spend, but this seems like a really cool, good salon. So I was like, okay, cool. And you know, that quote included a card and stuff. So I was like, okay, cool, like I think I'll probably book it in, but I'll just go get a few more quotes. So I went and tried to get a few more quotes and some of the hairdressers weren't calling me back and stuff like that. And I was like, ugh, can't be bothered with this anymore. I think I'm just going to go to this place because they had great reviews on Facebook and I couldn't really find anything bad about them. So I was like, I'm just going to go to them. I call them up and I'm like, hey, I was just down there like talking to you about a quote on this hair color that I want and like I'm ready to book it in. Can I book it in? They're like, sure, like can you come in next Thursday at 3:30 p.m. So I'm like, sure, I finish work at 4, but I'll talk to my boss, it should be fine. I asked my boss was like, no worries, I know how hard it is to get a haircut these days, like how hard it is to get an appointment, so just go, like don't worry about it. So I was like, sweet, no worries. So I booked it in. I turn up there on the day and I'm like so excited because it was like my first time coloring my hair, like I'm so excited. So I turn up there and I'm like, okay, hey, like I'm here, I'm ready for my hair. And they're like, yeah, cool, like come sit down. They're like super nice. She's like, what are we doing today? And I'm like, that was my first alarm bell because I was like, I told you the full story of what I was doing, like did you not note that down? Or so I was a bit like, eh. But anyway, I retold her what I wanted and showed her the photo that I showed you guys from Louise Skelton's Instagram account. And I was like, can you guys do this? And she's like, yep, that's right, now I remember. I'm like, okay, cool. So I kind of relaxed. So I'm like, okay, cool, that's what I want, like let's do it. So she's like, okay. So she starts bleaching my hair, doing balayage. And I'm like, yep, this is all going well, you know, leaves the dye on. It's all good. And then she's like, now we just have to do a toner to make it that blue grey color. So I'm like, yep, cool, that makes sense. So she puts the toner on my hair and it's looking like the perfect color and I'm like so excited by this point. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna get my hair that I really wanted, like this is so great. So then she washes the toner off and this is where it starts to go really horribly wrong. So I was like straight up grandma grey. There was like a very faint hint of blue to my hair, but it was grandma grey. So this is what it looked like. So it's like an ash blonde crossed with a grandma grey. It's not what I wanted at all. So I was like, ah, thanks, it's great. And left the hairdresser because that's what I do because I can't do confrontation. So I was like, hey, yeah, it's really great. Maybe next time we could go a bit bluer though. And she's like, yeah, don't worry, like I'm gonna darken the roots next time and make it bluer. And I'm like, okay, cool. So then I get home and in the harsh lighting of my house, I saw how grey it was. And because she'd done the balayage like all the way to the like roots of my hair, it's barely even balayage to be honest. It's like 2 inches of roots that are one color and the rest is gray. And I look so washed out. I actually look like a corpse, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. So I rang my cousin. I'm like, what do I do? Like, I don't want to hurt her feelings. Like, I don't know what to do. My cousin's like, get your ass back down there and make them fix it. So I call the salon and I'm like, look, I'm really sorry I didn't say this when I was there, but I'm really not happy with it. It's too gray. Can I just come down there and like buy some toner off you and go home and tone my hair? And she's like, oh, but it's like really complicated to like tone your hair, you know? And I'm thinking, no, it's not. And she's like, it's really complicated. You have to come back down and like, I'll put it on for you and then you can go home and wash it off in 30 minutes. So I'm like, whatever, cool. So I go down there. She puts the toner on my hair. She's like, this time it's like blue pigment. It'll definitely come out blue. I'm like, okay, cool. And I go home. And so I go home, I'm waiting 30 minutes, then I wash it off and it's still friggin' gray. So I start to panic by this point because now it's like 10 p.m. and I gotta go to work. So I'm like, shit, like I gotta go to work like this. So I'm like, okay, well there's nothing I can do. I'll just have to like put it in a ponytail and go to work. So I go to work and of course I'm like super upset and everybody's asking about it because it's like a huge change. So I have to like be constantly reminded of it all day at work. Everyone's like, oh my god, your hair. And I'm like, yeah, I really hate it. Can we please not talk about it? Thanks. So then I think people were like, oh, well, she's grumpy this morning. But I was like, seriously, I can't talk about it. I'm going to start crying. Like, I actually started crying at my desk. I was just like, I can't handle this. And I know that sounds really melodramatic, but it's like, it's my first experience of getting my hair done and they totally fucked it. So then the hairdresser had given me her number, like her personal mobile, and she's like, text me the result later and let me know that you're happy with it. So I texted her and I was like, look, I'm still not happy with this. You're gonna have to fix it again. Like, this is not good enough. I want it done tomorrow. I can't be walking around like this. I've got to go to Sydney on the weekend. This is not okay. So she's like, okay, well, I'll do what I can. So she gets me in the next day, which she made a point of telling me like she had to stay back at work to do this and like it's such a favor. And I'm just like, no, you messed my hair up and didn't give me what I wanted. You need to fix it. This is not my problem. I was like, just fix it. Like, so I had gone down there planning to just go brown, and the hairdresser had sent me earlier in the day a picture of brown hair with like lighter ends, like blonde ends, and she said, do you like this? And I was like, yep, let's just do that. Because I was like, they can't do it. Like, they're obviously not colorists. They're hairdressers, but they're not colorists. They don't understand color. They don't understand tone. They don't know how to do this, so I'm not gonna like mess with them. But then when I turned up the next day to have it done again, for the third time this time, she was like, oh, my boss knows how to do the color. Like, she's got it. She can mix it up for us. You know, it's gonna be great. Like, it'll look exactly like the picture. So I'm like, okay. And I stupidly trusted them again. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Like, let's put the color in my hair. And the boss was like, yeah, it's like iridescent blue, but don't worry, it won't come out like that. It'll be very muted. So she puts like bright blue dye on my hair. She's like, don't worry, I've mixed it with silver, and the silver that's in your hair will counteract it. So it'll turn out really like muted and it'll be that steel blue color you wanted. And I'm like, I've had my hair this iridescent type of blue before, and I was like very skeptical, but somehow I was just so stressed and not thinking straight, and I was just like, yeah, put it on, like it'll be fine. So it wasn't fine. I forgot to take a photo of what the bright blue looked like, so I'm going to look one up on Google that's very similar to show you guys. So it was like pretty close to this image. It was like iridescent blue, and after I had washed it like 10 times, because they said just wash it, if it's too bright just wash it with dishwashing liquid and it will strip the color out heaps and it will be muted. So I ended up with this. Now I agree that's muted in comparison to what I first had, but let's go back to the first photo that I had showed them and compare. Like, that is not the color that I asked for. It's still like, there's a color by Fudge called Hawaii Blue, and it reminded me so much of the Hawaii Blue color, and I was just like, this is iridescent blue. Like, I'm sorry, I can't go to work like this. Like, you have to fix this again. And they're like, oh, you know, just go home and wash it. So I was literally washing it. And in this time, I'm like having a friggin' panic attack, because I'm like, now I have to go to work with friggin' blue hair instead of gray hair. So I was like washing it. I was like Googling stuff, going on YouTube, looking up like baking soda hair stripper, and like I even ended up going down to a local hair house warehouse and asking their opinion, and they were like, we'd have to strip that with a bleach bath. It's gonna like damage your hair. It's gonna cost you $100. They were like, go back to that salon and demand that they fix it. And the other thing was that the second time when they put the blue dye on my hair, I got a big sob story from the young girl who did my hair, and she's like, oh, I have to pay for this out of my own pocket. So I felt bad, and I freaking gave her 20 bucks. And I was like, this is for you, not for the salon. But then I realized I should never have paid for that. Like, I should never have had to pay for them to make my hair even worse than it already was. So by this point I'm pissed, and I'm like, I'm done with the niceties. So I call them back and I'm like, you need to fix my hair. You have made my hair iridescent blue. I can't go to work. You're fixing it tomorrow, just so you know. And by now it was Friday night. And so I was going back on Saturday, and that was the day that I was meant to go to Sydney. So I had to cancel my trip to Sydney to go to this freaking salon a third time and get it done again. I went in there this time and I was like, just make it brown. Like, you guys can't do this color. You don't know what you're doing. Make it brown, please. So they're like, yeah, no worries. We'll just dye brown, like really dark brown over the top of the blue, and it'll cover it totally. And I was like, won't cover it. I was just like, again, I was so stressed by this point. Like, I hadn't been sleeping. I'd been like, I know this sounds really overdramatic, but I was just so stressed by this whole situation that had gone on for 3 days at this point. So then I was like, just dye it brown, please. And they're like, we'll put the brown over the blue. It'll cover it entirely. Don't worry. And I'm just like, that's not going to work. Like, I know that's not going to work, but I was just like, whatever, go for it. And so this is what I ended up with. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it came out like an olivey puce color. It's like brown mixed with bright blue. It came out like an olivey green disgusting color, and I was just like, are you tweaking? So then they're like, oh crap, it didn't work. I can't believe it didn't work. I'm like, well, I can fix it. And they're like, okay, well, we'll have to bleach bath it now. And I'm like, well, duh, like that's what I told you when I came in here, but you wouldn't listen to me. So they're like, we'll bleach bath it. So I'm like, great. Then I ended up with this brassy green blonde. So then she's like, oh my God, it's green. What am I gonna do? So the apprentice hairdresser comes over, and she'd been really nice to me the whole time, even though they were all like bitching about her openly in the store. Like, oh, she's so lazy, she does nothing. She has to clean. I don't want to clean because I've done my time. And they were just having a bitch about her. So I felt really bad for her. She was super nice to me. So she had been washing my hair every time I'd had it re-dyed. And she said to me, you need to put red in it to counteract the green because they're opposite on the color wheel. And I was like, that sounds like the most sensible thing I've heard since I got here. And the manager's like, oh yeah, we'll put red on it to counteract the green. I'm like, but is it going to turn out red? Like, are you going to use a red that's going to make my hair red? And she's like, no, hun, it won't be red. It'll just counteract the green. And I'm like, okay, do not give me attitude at this point. Like, you have ruined my hair multiple times. It has now been bleached twice in 3 days. I don't have patience, like at the best of times. Patience is not a thing with me. So I'm pissed. I'm like, lady, fix my hair and stop giving me attitude. So she's like, okay. So she puts the red on my hair, and I'm sitting there freaking out the whole time it's developing. And then she rinses it off, and it comes out a brassy blonde. And I'm like, by this point, so fucking relieved. By this point, this is what I've got. So it's like a brassy blonde. It's horrible. I hate it. But I'm like so thrilled by this point to have a normal colored hair. So I'm just like, okay, this is great. Leave it. The manager says, no, I can still see green. I can't let you leave my salon like that. I'm like, but you let me leave your salon with freaking electric blue washed out green hair, and you're gonna leave me with olivey weird puce hair, and now all of a sudden you're getting on your high horse about your reputation. And then I'm like, okay, well, I just want it toned to blonde then, like blonde instead of brassy blonde. And she's like, yeah, we'll put like a color over it that'll be a really light brown. And I'm like, no, listen carefully. Like, I want it to be blonde. I don't want brown hair. I want this to be blonde. So it's basically like a balayage that goes from a dark brown to a blonde. That's what I would like now, given the circumstances. And she's like, yeah, don't worry. It'll be the same level as your old hair, like a level 7. It'll be the exact same lightness as your old hair, but we'll just cover the green. And I'm like, all right, cool. So she puts this color on, and I can tell that it's brown. And I'm just like, you're not listening to a word I'm saying, lady. So she ends up putting on this freaking brown color, which is what I have now. So I don't know guys, but do you think this looks like my natural hair color? Do you think this looks like blonde? Because I don't. So safe to say that that is the worst hairdresser in the world. I will never go there again. It was such a terrible experience, and the entire time throughout the whole process I was getting attitude from them. They kept saying it's my fault because I thought I wanted grey when really I wanted something else, and I'm like, no, I knew what I wanted. I still know what I wanted. Now I've got a friggin' brown head that I can't get rid of for the next however many weeks it takes to wash out, and then I'm gonna have to go and spend more money to go and get it done again. So at this point I have spent $285 to get brown hair that I could have box dyed myself at home. Like realistically, could have just box dyed my natural color to brown for like $5. And just to top off the whole experience, I wake up the next morning on the Sunday with brown hair, feeling pretty great about the fact that I don't have blue or grey or puce, olive or whatever other frigging color on my head, and I'm pretty thrilled about that. And then I look in the mirror and I've got chemical burns all over my face because of the amount of dye and bleach that's splashed all over my face. So now I have gone back to the salon 3 times, I've had it dyed 6 times, bleached twice, and I've got chemical burns on my face, and I've spent $285. Safe to say, I will never be going there ever again. First salon ever. So that's my story of how I tried to go to a beautiful steel blue and I ended up with this muddy brown color. The brown is fine. It's not the worst brown in the world or anything like that, and I know there are bigger problems in the world, so I am moving on with my life. But I thought it would make a great story time for my channel. I've never done a story time because nothing really ever happens to me. I tend to stick away from doing anything that would cause any sort of hassle, which is why I've never dyed my hair. Clearly, I was in the right mind when I decided never to dye my hair, because this is what happens when I try to do anything. So yeah. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell so you can be notified of all my new videos. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!